With the tall trees surrounding you, reaching high to the clouds, it's easy to feel like something is out there, stalking, watching, waiting for you to leave from your group and be vulnerable enough to pounce. That's what these two films are all about, though they tackle the subject in vastly different ways. Prey was a surprisingly good prequel to the Predator series. It's a franchise that needed a win, and Prey proved to be an interesting enough concept to win over the masses. This is M.L. Miller Fright's Best in Horror Countdown 2021 through 2022. Counting down the best in horror films released from October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022. According to me, M.L. Miller. Here we go. Number 22. Prey was released on August 5th, 2022. It's streaming on Hulu. It's directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Dan Trachtenberg and Patrick Asen from characters created by Jim Thomas and John Thomas. Turns out the hunts the predator species have taken part in didn't begin with Dutch in that Central American jungle in the 80s. 300 years ago, another predator landed in the middle of Comanche land. Its arrival is witnessed by a headstrong female Comanche named Naru, played by Legion's Amber Midthunder. Though she is put down by the rest of her tribe, she has developed savvy tracking skills and wants to go on a great hunt to prove that she is a true warrior for her tribe. Though she warns the other warriors of the great thunderbird she saw in the sky, they don't listen and charge headfirst into the hunting grounds of the ultimate predator. With much of her tribe decimated, Naru and her faithful dog are the only ones left to battle this predator to the death. While many scorned the idea of a svelte gal that might weigh a skosh over 100 pounds taking on a giant monster that was barely beaten by Schwarzenegger in his prime, Prey sets up the idea rather deftly. Naru is not a perfect warrior. She's actually at quite the disadvantage given her size, strength, and inexperience. Unlike many female action heroes of late, Naru isn't some kind of superhuman dynamo, great at everything and protected by the densest of plot armor. Sure, she gets lucky from time to time, but Naru fails big in the first half of Prey, which makes her second round with the monster all the more thrilling. See, that's what a lot of people were looking for in someone like Rey in the Star Wars series and tons of other female heroes that have popped up in the last few years. Give them a real challenge. Have them actually fall and fail. Then have them rise up and take the monster or challenge on after learning from their mistakes. That's what Naru does in this film, and it makes her all the more relatable and fun to watch. Some might say that the 80s action heroes had the same kind of plot armor, and that's true. They did. There were some films where the male action hero could jump through an explosion without a scratch, land on their 2 feet, and then solve a riddle or get the girl effortlessly. That was bad writing then, and it's bad when it happens today. That's what made Predator so good, as the alien minced his way through an entire squadron of trained military specialists with heavy hardware. None of the muscle and steel helped Dutch defeat the Predator. It was his wits. He had to outthink it, and that's exactly what Naru does in Prey. Just like Dutch, she knows she can't beat this thing physically, so she uses her know-how of the environment and keen observational skills to even try to stand a chance against this monster. It helps that this is a star-making role for Amber Midthunder, who I fell for when she appeared as Carrie, the adrenaline junkie mutant in the Legion series. Midthunder, and man, how cool a name is that, is fun to watch. She's got these giant eyes that flare whiter as if she really loves and lives for this shit. Midthunder is one to watch, and I honestly can't wait to see where this role takes her. The Predator itself, this time played by Dane DeLiegro, is enormous and wonderfully realized. Labeled the feral predator, this monster uses some classic weaponry, but also some new gadgets to take on its prey. All of these weapons, be it the retractable shield or the crossbow bolt gun, work marvelously juxtaposed against the primitive landscape of the battlefield. Though its tech definitely gives the predator the advantage, its rage seems to be this predator's greatest flaw. More so than most of the other predators, this one takes a hell of a beating and keeps on clicking and ah-ah-ahing. I did miss the mimic tech that had been such a huge part of Predator lore. It's an iconic element that I think would have added to the tension had the predator attempted to fool its prey out from hiding by mimicking a wounded deer, a snarling bear, or even Naru's pet dog for that matter. Missed opportunity there. Prey is not perfect. While I like the way it got metaphorical by showing the predator and prey roles in nature through various species of animals taking each other out, I think those scenes were a little bit too on the nose and repeated maybe one too many times. Occasionally, the CG is a bit dodgy, especially during these animal sequences. I also think that the resolution, while bringing Naru's story to a close, really doesn't give much closure as to why this particular area was chosen for a hunting ground by the predators, how a certain pistol ends up in the hands of the predators later, and more importantly, what happens to the predator's ship after all of this. Maybe Trachtenberg left room for that to be dealt with in a direct sequel, which I would wholeheartedly support. While Predator was pretty much the most perfect action horror movie ever made, Prey is a close runner-up. I have a fondness for Predator 2, but that's far from the level of perfection of the original. Prey is a return to form. It's man, or in this case woman, against nature, against the ultimate hunter. Like the original, it hits the ground running and never slows down for more than a few minutes. This is a rapid-fire chase from start to finish. Sure, one might argue that the female Comanche might not have been permitted to hunt and fight like the rest of the boys, but this film does a decent job of addressing what is expected of Naru and how she fights against it. Let's just say that it's much more plausible the way this story plays out. I had a blast with Prey, and I hope Trachtenberg and Midthunder return to take on more Predators. With so many unresolved issues, a talented cast, Trachtenberg's wonderful handling of cohesive and daring action, and of course some gory, gobby, deboning and dismemberments here and there, Prey is a worthy successor, and for the first time I was pumped after watching a Predator movie since I saw the original in the theaters long ago. The original Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight was a shockingly fun slasher from Poland. 1 year later, they released a sequel which was just as demented and diabolical as the first one. Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight 2, aka Leslie de Nie Zasny Nicht 2, was released on October 27th, 2021. It's streaming on Netflix. It's directed by Bartosz M. Kowalski and written by Bartosz M. Kowalski and Miriela Zaradikowicz. Taking place the morning after the massacre that ended the first film, Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight 2 keeps the wacky story of a meteor, a dense Polish forest, and a pair of demented, deformed twins rolling along. The lone survivor, Vanessa, played by Zofia Wiklaz, returns, along with the deformed twins who seem to have met their fate in the last film. Turns out they didn't. The twins are alive, in one piece, and still all warty, sitting in a cell waiting for a special forces team to come and retrieve them. Because last film's carnage was so nuts, the small police force, consisting of 3 officers apparently, are holding Vanessa for questioning as well. But this sequel introduces us to a new protagonist, Adam, played by Mateusz Wojciechowski, Poland's answer to Pete Davidson. He's a clumsy and unconfident Barney Fife type. Adam dreams of being a super cop, saving his fellow officer and stone-cold hottie Zosia, played by Julia Wieniawa Narkiewicz, from fiendish vampire socialites in a Matrix-style opening sequence. But Adam can barely talk to anyone without stuttering and pissing himself. When the sheriff inexplicably decides to bring Vanessa back to the scene of the crime, this causes a series of events which unleashes a whole new crop of indestructible monsters. The filmmakers behind the original Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight did their homework. They're treading down well-worn paths traveled by many hiking hopefuls in slasher films from the 80s, but offering up an ironic and comedic spin at every turn that not only subverted expectations, but also proved to be entertaining, creative, and still downright scary and gory.
If you like the first film, you're in for a treat, as this sequel brings much of the same, and it should, since the director and writers have returned. Being a sequel, this one has to go bigger, and Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight 2 surely does. Not only does it continue the story of Vanessa and the twins, upping the ante on all of the horrors by keeping a lot of the slasher concepts, but it also evolves this into more of a creature feature than a straight-up stalk and slash. There still is quite the body count with creative deaths, but this sequel zooms in a bit closer and offers up the viewpoint of the monsters mutated by the meteor the twins found in the flashback in the original. So while a lot of the horror is the same, it still feels fresh and new because we're experiencing it through the eyes of the antagonist instead of a bunch of clueless kids in the woods. This means that the seemingly mindless and characterless twin monsters of the first are given much more depth here. We get to know what it is like to be a creature mutated by a rock that fell from the sky. This is still a down-to-earth film. There's no interstellar explanation as to what the meteor really is or where it's from, but the story is expanded to see things from an uncommon viewpoint. So while the original Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight offers up a gratuitous and melodramatic lovemaking sequence, expect another one in this sequel. But it's the monsters who end up doing the horizontal hokey pokey instead. And that's a showstopper of a scene, and had me bursting with giggles and guffaws. Nobody Sleeps 2 delivers quite a few memorable scenes, from the aforementioned vampire battle opener and slimy sex scene to some truly gory and inventive kills done in ways you haven't seen before. Yes, much of the movie is played for laughs, but I think I laughed harder in this one than I did the first one. But even though there's a snarky and wry wit to everything, there still manages to be some tender moments, as well as some ones of pure horror. The gore here is tops, with guts and sinew tossed in all directions. The monster effects are amazing as well, as they're covered with blisters, pustules, and sores that look painful and about to pop. While they look menacing, because they have a personality in this POV-shifting sequel, it makes them much more human and relatable. Feeling like a soulmate to Dead Snow and its balls-out maniacal sequel, Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight only improves on the lore of the original. It shoots higher and braver. It still feels like you could watch both films and enjoy one great tale. Sure, in order to push the plot along, some leaps in logic are made, but all of the actors involved do a great job of conveying everything from sheer terror to utter sympathy and hysterical lunacy. The comedic timing is fantastic, immersing the viewer into a scene so batshit that you can't do anything but laugh at how wild it all is. Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight 2 ends with the possibility of a third installment, and I'm all for it. Whether he does make a sequel or something else entirely, filmmaker Bartosz M. Kowalski makes wild and raucous horror cinema. Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight 1 and 2 seem to have been made by people who grew up loving the same slasher films we all did, and better yet, offers up modern takes on the tired genre that are unforgettably entertaining. As always, feel free to agree, disagree, or give me your own picks for your favorite horror movies. It's October, so let's talk horror. Come back tomorrow for the next level in the Best in Horror Countdown 2021 through 2022. Be sure to hit all of the pertinent bells and whistles down below, and you'll never miss a post. Happy Halloween, folks.